Hello, everyone. This is Dr. K. Bhavani Shankar from Department of Sociology, Nizam College. And I welcome you all to sixth semester Sociology being offered by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Today, we will start social demography, which is one of the important aspects in sociology, as it is going to determine a nation. Social demography will try to study about various factors which are going to influence the size of population, nothing but the demographical conditions. It takes various things into account. It takes various things into account like fertility of the individuals, mortality rate. Beside this, it also studies about population growth, size, composition, as well as distribution of the population in each and every state or a nation. The size of the population is going to decide the fate of a nation, my dear friends. So, demography is going to study only about the size of population, all these things, whereas the factors which are going to influence the size of population and other like birth rate, death rate, and so on will depend on the culture. It depends on the geographical conditions. It depends on nature. So, this sociology is going to take all these things into account to study the demography, nothing but the size of population. So, social demography can be defined as the analysis of the interrelationship of general and cultural factors with population size, structure, distribution, and population behavior. So, in social demography, we try to describe and as the analysis of sociological questions with demographical data such as census reports, population surveys, and so on. In the study, we try to find the interrelationship shapes, social and cultural factors which are viewed as an independent variables that account for empirical regularities in the population, size, structure, as well as the processes. So, um, for sociology, this demography is going to be useful. So, it has been very helpful from the 18th century itself. Demography is the combination of two Greek words, demos, which means people, and graph, which represents writing or drawing. The term demography was coined by actually Villiard, who is a Belgian, in the year 1855. But um, John Grant is treated as the real founder of the word democracy. Now let us discuss about the nature of social demography. Social demography is a science. Is a science. It was improved the data. It is introduced using new techniques and precise measurements of the demographical transition that is occurring. Demography has become a science rather than a literature. It is interdisciplinary by nature. It borrows concepts, theories from various disciplines, preferably from social sciences. Social demography is not only concerned with the explanation of demographical behavior through reference to social systems, but it is also concerned with the effects of demographic systems on the operations of social system. For example, if you see, America is giving visas to a lot of people. It encourages the talent from various parts of the world to come to America and settle there. America is the land of settlers. You see, the natives of America are hardly 39 to 42%, whereas the rest of the population are from various parts of the world. So you can see the demographical transition, the size of population in America. You can see a lot of people from India, Pakistan, China, and various parts going there. And it's also going to increase the size of population. It is increasing the density of population where different religious people, different caste people, and different races are staying together. So we try to study about the operations of social system in terms of demography. It not only refer about the system, but it also tries to study about the operations of these social systems. So social demography has wider scope compared to demography. Social demography has wider scope compared to democracy. Sorry. According to Premi, a basic assumption of sociology is that personal interactions give rise to social norms, and these norms in turn are going to govern the social behavior. And this behavior is going to be influencing the demographical process of natality, fertility, mortality, even migration, thus influencing demographical structure. Reciprocally, the size of population, its age, sex structure strongly affect the nature of personal interaction and hence the functioning of social action system. A study of this interrelationship become an important field of social demography. Social demography thus includes under its scopes all the issues which are related with population. For example, size, structure, density of population, distribution, socio-cultural aspects of a given population, and so on. Along with this, my dear friends, these factors, these indicators are also going to have a tremendous effect on fertility, and so on, my dear friends. So all these things will be studied by social demography. Along with this, social demographers are also interested in migration as a process wherein individual leaves one social system and wish to enter the other social system. So we try to study why people are migrating, what are the causes for migrating from one place to the other place. This is also being studied by social demographers. And we also try to study about the effect of nuclear family system, the size of family in comparison to joint family organization. Because if we see in the joint families, my dear friends, the size of the family will always be huge compared with that of the nuclear families. And even in the so-called modern societies, or in the globalized era, in the urban societies, or in the industrialized societies, the size of the family is being shrinking. And you can see that in the modern families, most of the couples are preferring to have only single child, and in some cases they are preferring not to have the children at all, my dear friends. So we try to study about various factors which are going to influence the demographical factors. Now let us study about the subject matter of democracy. The first one is size and shape of population. The size of population means the total number of persons residing in a definite geographical area during a definite period of time. The size and shape of the population of any region or nation are changeable. If we see 2 years back, China was hugely populated or number one populated nation on this planet. And recently, India has surpassed China and has become the huge or number one populated country on this planet. So the nations, the size of the population, the shape of the population may vary based on the geographical conditions and based on the time, my dear friends. It is because every country is unique, remember, because of customs, specialities, socio-economical conditions, cultural atmosphere, moral values, and different standards for acceptance of artificial means of family planning and availability of health facilities are going to affect the size of population of a particular nation or a region, my dear friends. All the factors which are going to affect the size and shape of population are studied under social demography. Second one, it is also related with birth rate and death rate. And these two factors can influence the size and shape of a population. And therefore, their importance in population studies or demography is very, very crucial. So, these are also linked with the birth rate, belief system, social status, marriage, age at marriage, orthodox customs which are related with marriage, early marriage, health of the mother and the child, infanticide rate, maternal death, stillbirths, and so on are going to have the effect on the birth rate as well as the death rate. So, taking the information about birth and death rate, the policymakers are going to define or design the policies as per the requirement of the nation. If we see, if we see, almost a decade back, or at least half a decade back, China, they used to have single child policy, but recently they were forced to introduce two child policy. Do you know what made them to introduce this policy? In China, majority of the population are dependent population. That means there must be below the age of 14 years or above the age of 60 years. That means in the near future, the majority of the population who are above 60 years may not be a productive population. There will be simply dependents. So in China, they require human resource or manpower so that they can be used in production process, which will increase the GDP of that nation. For that reason, they have taken the demographical factors into account, and for that reason, they have shifted from single child policy to that of the double child policy, my dear friends. So we are going to take the birth rate as well as the death rate and the size of population, nothing but the composition of population into account in order to design the policies, my dear friends. The third one is composition and density of population. Composition and density of population. This is also one of the subject matter of demography. It studies the composition as well as density of population, which is very, very important. For example, let me quote about the Gujar community, which is there in Rajasthan and the northern part of India. I read this article way back in the year 2001 when I was doing my master's. And even now, the same patterns about family and marriage is being there in or practiced among some of the Gujars there. If we see among Gujars, the male population is huge compared with the female population. It is very, very huge. Male population is more compared with the female population. So these boys, each and every boy, do not have the opportunity to have a wife. So do you know what they have done? If the elder brother is going to get married, then the rest of the brothers also, they have made a custom that even the girl has to maintain the relation with the husband's brothers. And there are plenty of explanations for that. The first one is the boys do not wish, or the system does not allow them to accept the girl from the other communities because it is going to pollute the purity of blood. They want to maintain the purity of blood. So for that reason, the boys or the community do not allow the boys to accept the girl from the other faith or from the other communities, my dear friends. At the same time, what made them to accept, or why the system allowed the girl to go and have the relation with the husband's brother? There may be multiple explanations for that. The first one is that some people may maintain celibacy, but it may not be possible for each and every one. So there are chances that there may be incidents of rape cases, or some of the girls may be forced into prostitution. Along with that, there are chances that the money goes outside, and there are chances that they may have sexually transmitted diseases and so on. And according to the traditional Hindu society, if a person wants to enter to heaven, besides doing the right deeds, the male child has to dispose the dead body or do the cremation activity. But a boy does not have a wife, no child, even the person has maintained celibacy, has done the right deeds, my dear friends, they may not be in a position to attain salvation because of these factors. So demography, social demography will try to study about the belief system, the culture, the tradition, which also influence the birth and death rate and whatnot, my dear friends. So we try to study about composition. Along with that, we also try to study about density of population. Density of population. Um, we try to study about the ratio between the rural and urban population, distribution of population in accordance with religion, language, occupational distribution of population, agriculture, and industrial structure per every square kilometer, and so on. And this density of population is very, very important because it allows the policymakers to design the policies in respect to development of a particular geographical area in terms of socio-economical development, socio-economical problems created due to increase in population size, problems related with density of population, and so on. So this way it is going to be helpful for us. Then we also deal with the socio-economical problems. Out of many problems relating to population growth, the effects of high density due to industrialization in the urban areas affect the socio-economical condition of the people. Because as people are going to migrate to the industrial societies, the density of population increases, giving rise to the problem of housing. As the middle class and the upper middle class, they may stay in the good localities or posh localities. The poor people will be forced to reside in the slum areas. At the same time, as the population is increasing, as the industries are increasing, the transport system is being developing, it also contributes to pollution in the urban centers like air pollution, you can see the water pollution, and so on. At the same time, the urban centers, when they are not in a position to provide infrastructure or Sorry, guys, there was some technical issue. Okay. So we were discussing on socio-economical problems. As industrialization increases, as migration increases, what happens? The pressure on the urban centers will increase. So obviously, the rich can stay in the posh localities, whereas the poor people are forced to stay in the slum areas. And we can also see that there will be increase in pollution, especially air pollution, water pollution, and so on. At the same time, as the unemployment increases, at the time it may also give birth to various problems like addiction to liquor or alcohol, maybe drugs. We can also see crime rate increasing in the urban centers. We can also see that there will be a lot of juvenile delinquency, prostitution, and so on. So we also try to study about various important aspects in demography. Along with this, we also try to study about quantitative as well as qualitative aspects. When we talk about demography, it is a quantitative one. We try to quantify the problems of population, but at the same time, we also try to focus on qualitative problems, are also a part of population studies. Like, for example, when we talk about health sector, if we want to provide the requirements, if we want to ensure that people are healthy, we are going to connect with the number of hospitals which are available, the number of physicians available to the total population, the number of hospitals, number of inpatients or number of beds available for inpatients, expectations of life at birth, daily availability of minimum calories of energy, resistance power, as well as we also discuss about various programs which are linked with family planning and so on, my dear friends. So when we talk about qualitative aspects, then we'll be studying about all these things. So these are the important subject matter of demography. Now let us discuss about distribution of population. When we talk about distribution of population, we study about how people are distributed within the continents or world regions, or how people are concentrated in the developed as well as in the underdeveloped countries, and so on. With this, we try to see the number in terms of population and the proportional changes. We also try to study about the political, social, economical causes which tries to bring the change in the distribution of population within a country. For example, as the size of population is increasing in India, the government is trying to stringent the laws or design the laws in such a way that each and every parent is properly educated so that they confine to the small family so that we can reduce the pressure on our nation. As the size of the population increases, remember that the GDP of that nation will come down and the pressure on the nation will be increasing. So we study about political factors, we study about social as well as economical causes which try to bring the change in the population structure of a particular region or a community or a nation. We also try to study about the distribution of population in the rural areas as well as in the urban areas. If we see in the Indian society, according to 2011 census, 67% of the people even now depend on agriculture sector directly or indirectly. That means 2/3 of the Indian population even now resides in the rural areas and depend on farming as the main source of living. So we also try to do the studies so that based on that we can design the policies accordingly. Then we also try to study about migration, which also plays a vital role in the distribution of population and supply of labor. If we see in India, if we see the population of India, the intellectual labor are migrating towards United States of America, UK, Australia, and so on. And the illiterate people are looking towards the Arab countries because there is a huge demand for people in the construction sector or in sheep rearing or working as a maid or so on, my dear friends. So you can see a clear cut difference in terms of migrational structure too. The brain, the talent is going towards the developed nation, whereas the people who are ready to work, who are ready to keep the energies, physical energy, they are looking towards the Arab countries where they can find a living, my dear friends. So we also try to study about how the population is being distributed, how people are migrating, and how the labor is supplied across the countries. So we also try to study about the internal and external migration. So we talk about immigration and emigration. Nothing but migrating within the country and migrating from one nation to the other nation. If you see almost a decade back, most of the Scandinavian countries have opened the visas and they said that any person who is qualified, they can apply for citizenship directly, and they also gave the citizenship for a lot of people who are aspiring to go there. And you know what made them to migrate there, or what made them to allow the people to come into their countries, and what made them to give the green cards, direct citizenship? Because in those countries the dependent population is very very huge, and they want the working force so that they can come to their countries, work in their countries and contribute. So there must be a question from your side: why not work permits? If I go on your work permit, I will be working only for a stipulated time period, maybe 2 or 3 years. That means after that stipulated time, I may get extension of visa or not. So after working there rigorously, whatever my earnings are there, I will send that to my respective place so that I can use that money for developing my infrastructure, or use for purchasing the property and so on. That means the money of that nation will go outside. That means the GDP value of that nation will come down. So they want workers to work there. At the same time, they wish that the money should be circulated only in their countries. For that reason, they have gone for this green card concept, so that people go there, they purchase a house, they save the money there itself so that it can be circulated there, so that their GDP value will increase, my dear friends. So we are going to study about various factors which are going to help the people to migrate, maybe within the country or outside from one country to the other country. And we also study the effects of this migration. We also study the effects of this migration, not only in the nation, but also to the migrated country also. Urbanization is also another factor in terms of distribution of population within the country. The focus in population studies is on factors responsible for urbanizations, the problems associated with urbanization, and we also try to study it so that we can find certain solutions for that. You see that there are only 5 metropolitan cities which are famous across the country. And as industrialization is taking place, people from across the country, from 28 states and UTs, they are trying to go to these metropolitan cities, aspiring to find a job, aspiring to be very, very rich, which is increasing the pressure on that particular geographical areas in terms of housing, in terms of water supply, in terms of traffic, in terms of providing infrastructure, and so on. So, in order to find a solution for this, the government has introduced CES, special economic zones. They want to distribute the work, not to concentrate one geographical area, but to be spread to various parts of the country. So you must have seen that across the country as well as within our state also, my dear friends, we have introduced this CES as a concept so that the pressure on that particular geographical area can be reduced to certain extent, my dear friends. I'm not saying that it can be controlled to 100%, but to some extent we can try to solve it. Then we try to study about theoretical models. There are vast theoretical aspects of population studies, which include the various theories of population propounded by sociologists, biologists, demographers, economists, and so on. And we also have theories of migration as well as urbanization. So we will be discussing about these theories in detail in the coming classes. At the same time, social demography will also try to study about the practical aspects of population studies. It tries to study and relate to various methods of measuring population changes with the help of census methods, age pyramids, population projections, and so on, my dear friends. We'll also be dealing about this in detail in the coming classes. Then we also deal with population policy. Population policy is an important subject of demography, especially in the context of developing countries, because it includes policies for population control and family planning strategies, reproductive health, maternal nutrition, child health policies, policies for human development of a specific group, and so on. So we'll be discussing about the Indian population policy in detail in the coming classes. When we talk about this demography, my dear friends, we can study it from two dimensions. It can be demography. It can also be macro demography. When we talk about micro demography, my dear friends, it is from the narrow view of population studies. Here it includes the study of fertility, mortality, distribution, migration, and so on of an individual, a family, or a group of a particular city or area or community. So we are going to talk about fertility, mortality, the birth rate, the death rate, the distribution, density of population, migration, and so on. It may be about an individual, a family, or about the people in a particular geographical area. Whereas coming to macro demography, it is a macro view of population studies, which includes the qualitative aspects of demography, such as interrelationship between population and social conditions, economical and cultural conditions of the country, which affect the population growth. So we are going to study the social aspects, economical aspects, as well as the cultural conditions which are going to affect the population growth. It studies the size of the population, the composition, as well as the distribution of population and long run changes taking place in them. It also tries to study how migration, urbanization is going to affect the population size. It also studies about the problems like unemployment, poverty, and policies which are related to tackle these problems of unemployment, poverty, and how to control the population, how to introduce family welfare programs. All this will be discussed at the macro demographical level. According to Professor Bogium, he explained demography as a mathematical and statistical study of the size, composition, and spatial distribution of human population and of changes over time in these aspects through five processes. He said that there are five processes which are going to bring the change in the human population, and that can be studied in the mathematical and statistical way. First one is fertility, mortality, marriage, migration, and social mobility. These are the five processes. Using these five processes, fertility, mortality, marriage, migration, and social mobility, we will be able to explain the human population in terms of size, composition, and spatial in the mathematical and statistical way, my dear friends. Now, whether demography is a science or not, that is the biggest question now. In your first semester, you must have studied that sociology is a science. And in order to treat any subject as a science, my dear friends, there are three conditions to be fulfilled. There are three conditions to be fulfilled. The first one is first one is experimentation. Second one is verification of the existing data. And the third one is we require validity and reliability. If any subject is going to fulfill these three conditions, experimentation, verification, validity, and reliability, then we treat that subject as a science, my dear friends. According to your book, they have defined that science is a systematized body of knowledge ascertainable by observations and experimentation. That means we are going to have a body of knowledge which is ascertained by observations or through experimentations. And based on these experimentations, we are going to formulate or we are going to make generalized statements, principles, and we are going to formulate the theories or laws, which will try to trace out a causal relation between cause and effect, my dear friends. So even demography as a science, my dear friends, will try to maintain or try to establish the relations between the size of population in relation with the belief system, in relation with the nature, in accordance with what not, my dear friends. That's the reason we also call demography is a science, my dear friends. Now let us study about the importance of demography. Why we need to study it. Now let us see it from the economic perspective. For example, as the population increases, my dear friends, as the population increases, it is the development of a nation or the development of the economy will gradually slow down. The government has to take appropriate measures to control the growth of population and to accelerate the development of the economy, my dear friends. So, first, as the population increases, the economy will come down. For that, we have to take certain measures. So, from the economical perspective, my dear friends, our main intention is to keep the size of population intact, my dear friends. Or else, as it is increasing, our duty is to reduce the population size because rapid population reduces per capita income, lowers the standard of living, increases mass unemployment or underemployment, damages the environment, increases the burden on social infrastructure, and so on, my dear friends. So it is the duty, it is the responsibility of the government to study the population so that they design the policies in accordance with that. Next one, from the societal point of view, when the population increases, the society faces n number of problems like shortage of basic services like drinking water facility, supply of uninterrupted electricity, transport system, communication, and so on. Even we are going to face the problem in terms of public health, education, and so on. So the society may also face trouble. Along with these problems, we may also face the problems of migration, urbanization, which are associated with growing population, which may lead to problem of law and order in the society. So, as the population increases, the state and the non-governmental organizations have to adopt to appropriate measures to address these issues. Let me give one example for this. Agriculture sector can provide employment only for 9 months, hardly for 9 months, whereas the rest of the 3 months, most of the agro labor who are unskilled or semi-skilled, they could not migrate to the nearby. They could not migrate to the nearby towns or cities to find a job. Whereas the young people, they are migrating to the nearby towns or cities to fetch a job. That means when people are migrating to the urban centers, when when people are migrating to the urban centers, there is burden on the urban centers. People who can afford, they are staying in the house, or else some people are staying on the streets. There is huge demand for the employment, like, and if people are not in a position to find a job, there are chances that the pickpocketing, chain snatching, these kind of petty crimes may also increase. I'm not saying all the people may do it, but maybe few people. And some people who do not find a job, they will be facing problems like hunger, malnutrition, and there are chances that we may also have certain diseases being spread from one person to the other person. Like on the other side, for unskilled, for semi-skilled, and for older people who could not migrate to the nearby towns aspiring for a job, even for a particular period of time, even in those areas, my dear friends, there'll be malnutrition, undernutrition, and problems like. So, in order to tackle these issues, the government of India has launched a program called Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act or scheme, which says that it is going to provide employment for the unskilled, semi-skilled for minimum 100 days to that of required. If required, it can be implemented for 365 days in a year, my dear friends, so that the urban, okay, the migration to the urban areas only during that particular period of time can be reduced. That means the burden on the cities can be reduced. At the same time, people who could not migrate to the urban centers but facing trouble back at home, that problem can also be addressed. So, looking at the problems, my dear friends, we will be able to design the policies as per the requirement. Then let us discuss it from the economical planning perspective. We need to have the data related with the trends in terms of population growth so that the planners can formulate the policies per the economical plan of a country. For example, as majority of the population are depending in the or residing in the rural areas, and most of the people may possess skills or not, the government of India has started Skill India program, which is going to provide them 3 months residential training program in some areas of the skills of whatever they wish. And the government is also trying to help them in providing the job so that each and every young youth, young people can become skilled labor rather than becoming an unskilled labor, my dear friends. So the economical planners are going to formulate the policies which help in contributing in improving the economical condition of that particular country, my dear friends. Right now, we are talking about Skill India program, we are talking about Make in India program, and so on. Besides the traditional programs like Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Yojana, uh, we have various programs which are helpful in generating the employment opportunities for the people. Right now, we are also going to provide loans for the people, like Mudra loans for the street vendors, so that they can get some input money, which can be used to strengthen their business and so on. At the same time, we also talk about or design policies for strengthening the services like schools, or nothing but educational institutions, hospitals, houses, electricity, transport, and so on, my dear friends. Along with this, we also try to uh, make a projection about the increase of the labor force and the number of people in the age group of 1 to 15 years and 15 to 50 years, so that we can estimate what will be the size of population in the coming years, so that the government can design the policies and try to generate the employment opportunities or educational opportunities for the people, so that they can contribute, that human resource can contribute to the economical development of that nation. And when we see it from the administrative perspective, population studies are going to be useful to run the government in the underdeveloped countries, especially in the underdeveloped nations or in the developing countries like India. Almost all social and economical problems are associated with the growth of population. The administrators has to tackle and find solution to the rising problem, to the problems which are rising from the growth of population, my dear friends. There may be migration, there may be urbanization, there may be shanty towns, pollution, drainage system, electricity, and so on. If you see in Delhi, the pollution is increasing like anything. And in order to tackle the problem of pollution, they have introduced the concept of odd even numbers in terms of vehicle usage. At the same time, the government of India has said that the diesel vehicles will be stopped in the near future. And they're also encouraging the companies, mobile industries, automobile industries, to shift from diesel petrol vehicles to that of uh, um, electrical vehicles which can reduce the pollution, my dear friends, to a certain extent, my dear friends. So we are going to design the policies so that we can address the issues. So it is very, very important from the administrative point of view. Now let us discuss it from the political point of view. Whenever we are going to have elections, we talk about three things. One is we talk about constituencies. So as the population increases, we are going to define new constituencies. We are going to redesign the constituencies and so on. First one is for that. Second one, as the number of people increases, the number of voters in turn increases. That means we must know how many people are there in a particular geographical area, how many people are going to cast the votes. So for that, we need to have the setup. So for that, we are going to define the structure, everything. So we are going to use the census data, like what is the size of population, what is the size of male and female voters, what is their education level, what is the age structure, and so on, my dear friends. Based on the information, the political parties are going to prepare their political manifesto, saying that for this section of people, we will try to address this kind of issues. They are going to design the policies as per the size of population, as per the kind of population, and so on, my dear friends. You can see the political manifestos being made from the time to time, my dear friends. Along with this, the election commission also has to establish election booths as against the number of voters. So if you do not have the number of people, the list of people at the time, the election commission even cannot uh, provide the number of election booths. At the same time, they also have to appoint the election staff to ensure smooth conduct of this election process, my dear friends, so that the people are going to elect the representatives in a smooth and democratical way, my dear friends. Social demography is one of the prominent disciplines in sociology. It analyzes the demographical questions with the available demographical data collected through both qualitative as well as quantitative methods, my dear friends. Social demography, along with the historians, statisticians, and other scholars, use the demographic data and describe the advantages as well as the disadvantages of a particular society. Right now, the entire world is looking towards India. You know why they are looking? Is it just because of Modi? Sorry, it's not so. Because India has become the number one population, and majority of the population are in the workforce, my dear friends. They are in the age group of 21 years to below the age of 50 years. They are productive. And if all this workforce is going to work effectively, remember that work effectively, then a day comes where we are going to become the biggest economy. Right now, we are the fifth largest economy on this planet. And the Prime Minister of the country is saying that within the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to become the third largest economy on this planet. Remember, it is just because of the demographical factors that most of the population is youth or in the working force, and most of the people are well educated and they possess skills. That's the reason why the world is looking towards India. And the so called industrialists who never looked to India as a potential market, right now they are looking towards India. You can see that the CEO of Apple industry, in order to open a shop in Bangalore, all the way he came from America and he started a store. He made a ribbon cutting. Imagine the potential of India because huge resource working effectively. Their income system is economical conditions is improving. For that reason, in order to attract the customers, all the way he came from US to Bangalore to launch a company, and he also said that he is going to start assembling units, Apple mobile assembling units in India, so that he can generate employment opportunities, my dear friends. So social demography plays a vital role in terms of overall aspects in terms of development of a nation. That is the advantage. But if the same time, if the population is not properly nurtured, if they're not properly socialized, then obviously it may lead to social issues like poverty, unemployment, crime rate may increase, adultery may increase, prostitution, juvenile delinquency, and number of social problems may also increase. So this demographical data will help us to describe the advantages as well as the disadvantages for a particular society, my dear friends. Now, let us try to study or make a distinction between demography, social demography, and population studies. Demography will try to study population change in terms of demographical variables as fertility, mortality, migration, age, sex, structure, and distribution of population. It is only going to study the birth rate, the death rate, male female ratio, the migration, and so on. Whereas social demography, along with studying the fertility, mortality, all these things, it will also try to study about various factors which are going to influence this, like social conditions, economical aspects of a population, and so on, because there are plenty of things which are going to affect the human health and so on, my dear friends. So social demography try to study this. Coming to population studies, it has a wider scope and its nature is broad as it ranges from theories hypotheses from various disciplines along with the demographical data and variables. The two terms, population studies and demography, are often used as interchangeable, are used as the same words or synonyms. But these two terms, population studies and demography, are entirely different. Whereas demography is confined only to the mathematical or statistical modeling of the components of population and variations and change, whereas population studies are concerned not only with population variables but also between the relations between the population changes and other variables like social, economical, biological, geographical, and so on, my dear friends. I hope that you have understood the difference between the concepts like demography, social demography, and population studies. Now, let us see the relationship between social demography and sociology. Social demography will try not only tries to collect about the facts and figures about the size and structure, distribution and processes of population, but it also deals with the socio-cultural factors which are affecting the trends in terms of population growth, like marriage, age at marriage, family structure, and so on. Whereas sociology, on the other hand, will try to make generalizations about social patterns, social relations, and social structure. The aggregate phenomena of of human society in terms of culture, social relations, and social institutions are dealt by sociologists. Sociology studies human society as a collection of individuals on whom the society depends on. It also views the human societies also um, depend for survival upon each other with the essential functions like socialization, education, maintenance of social order, and control and communications. Social demography and sociology have specific area of interest which share a reciprocal relations of dependency. Social demography draws upon various sociological concepts, theories, laws of human society to explain the demographical phenomena. I just gave the example of Gujarats, if you remember that. Sociology, on the other side, has contributed substantially for understanding the causes for urbanization, causes for migration or the process of migration, the patterns of spatial distribution, and so on. Sociology draws upon demographical information about the trends in population growth, population process to understand the social and cultural factors which are affecting and being affected by them. Sociology studies the social and cultural factors which are influencing the fertility, family welfare, and so on, my dear friends. So both are reciprocally depending on each other for certain things. When we talk about the relation between social demography and economics, my dear friends, economics is linked with four aspects: production, consumption, distribution, and exchange. It deals with maximum utilization of resources. So, for that, they need to know what is the size of population, how many people can adopt it or purchase it. That means what is the purchasing capacity of the people, what kind of products we need to design. So we need to take the culture, the religious sentiments into account. So this economical aspect is also going to depend on social demography, my dear friends. Based on the economical conditions of the people, even it is going to influence the fertility rate, the mortality rate, and so on. For example, when Yuvraj Singh was infected with or had cancer, at the next instant, he migrated or he went to America from where he got it treated. Whereas if you see a poor person whose economical condition is very, very low, he may simply delay it, thinking that it is his fate and there are chances that he may die early because of the disease, my dear friends. So we can see that even this economy is going to influence the health, the fertility, the mortality, and so on, my dear friends. And if we see the relation between social demography and human ecology, Human ecology is concerned with symbiotic relation between man and environment. Man will try to adjust with the environment. Remember that he tries to adjust with the environment, and in the so-called modern societies we're also trying to modify the environment as per our conditions. And these geographical conditions, environmental conditions are also going to influence the birth, the death, and so on, my dear friends, including the economy. So these are going to play a vital role. So from the human